it was a bit more difficult, for him to distinguish what was going on in, the real world and in his imagination. So we asked him to stop participating, and, so he, recompensated, fairly quickly. But in terms of, the DMT work itself, people, kept their perspective. Even during, the actual state of intoxication, they still knew that they were in a study. And, after they came down, they were completely down.
So when they had, so you're saying that they had what normal doctors would refer to as subjective experiences, what the mind generates itself, but they would come back and they would say, no, I really went somewhere else,
I was expecting them, to kind of entertain that possibility, and, we could talk about it, but it was an extremely, firmly held conviction on their part, and it was unshakable, so I had to start to kind of incorporate or, think about other worldviews or other models that might take that into account.
Like the machine elves.
Terence McKenna spoke a lot about machine elves, and I'm really not exactly sure what a machine elf would look like. I don't think our volunteers, I just don't remember them describing the, typical Terence McKenna machine elves. Terence was just beginning, to gain some popularity and, some traction in, the early 1990s when my studies were going on. So his ideas and his, themes really were not quite as popular in, the common psychedelic, culture as they are now. So I don't think that many of the volunteers were actually expecting those, kinds of visions in the first place.
The soul has no limitation.
And once again, ladies and gentlemen, we are speaking with Dr. Rick Strassman, rickstrassman.com, and his books DMT, The Spirit Molecule, and Inner Paths to Outer Space are available on Amazon.com. This is Truth Frequency with Chris Geo and Socio Student, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes.
We were in the center of the Amazon basin. We had come there to explore tryptamine hallucinogens. These are short-acting, very powerful psychedelic drugs. And the reason we were so interested in these drugs is because in encounters with it in the pure was invariably characterized by encounters with elves, thousands of these things. When you smoke DMT, for example, at a sufficiently high and prepared dose, you get elves. Everybody does. You may not believe it, but on the other hand, it only takes 5 minutes to prove that I'm bullshitting you 100%. Surely anyone who's studied UFOs and alien intelligence for as many years as the people represented here have can afford to invest 10 minutes in the wild-eyed assertion that all you need do is inhale deeply 3 times, and you want contact, you want elves, you want alien intelligence, you'll have it up the kazoo. Now, of course, it comes from an unsanctioned dimension. And so, all night long, I sat reviewing the things that had passed, seeming to divide my consciousness and send it both backward through my family tree and forward into the future. I seemed to see all the years still ahead. I saw some technique emerging from this contact, our careers pursued across time and space, and finally vindication as the world realized the truth of the transdimensional nature of the Stropharia visions and the true nearness of the worlds that they had thrown open. For it had become my belief that the contact with an intelligent and utterly alien species was beginning for humanity. It seemed that out of the long night of cosmic time, the novelty of novelties, the moment of contact between minds on utterly different planes was beginning. We were among the first to achieve contact with this other. It was the real thing. We had come to the equatorial jungle to explore the dimensions glimpsed in tryptamine ecstasy. And there, in the darkness of the heart of the Amazon, we had been found and touched by this bizarre and ancient life form that was now awakening to the global potential of a symbiotic relationship with technical humanity. All night long, strange vistas and insights poured through me. I saw gigantic machineries and worlds of vegetable and mechanical forms on scales inconceivably vast. Time, agatized and glittering, seemed to pour by me like living superfluids, inhabiting dream regions of terrible pressure and super cold. And I saw the plan, the mighty plan, at last. It was an ecstasy, an ecstasis that lasted hours and placed the seal of completion on all of my previous life. At the end, I felt reborn, but as what, I knew not, that will sweep away the petty concerns of earth and history-bound humanity.
And welcome back to Truth Frequency, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Chris Gio, and I'm joined as always by the lovely, lovely socio-student. We are speaking with Dr. Rick Strassman, author, researcher, and clinical psychiatrist. His books are available at Amazon.com, DMT, The Spirit Molecule, and Inner Paths to Outer Space. And of course, his website is rickstrassman.com. The clip you just heard was by Terrence McKenna. He was talking about machine elves and some of the encounters he had while he was on DMT. He claims that a lot of people see these machine elves. Dr. Rick Strassman would disagree with that. And I know there's a couple of listeners out there who have emailed me who said, hey, you know, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I'm not experiencing any of these entities. So, Dr. Strassman, if you wouldn't mind addressing some of their questions, what would you say to the people who aren't quite seeing the entities? Would you say that it's a subjective experience, or is it maybe possibly something that they're not doing correctly?
Well, you know, what do those people describe then?
Colors, lights, and just a sense of complete out-of-body rather than going... I mean, it seems like they're blasting off to somewhere else, but they're actually not being in contact with anything. I mean, just a complete, whoa, what's happening? Where am I?
Yeah. So these are people that smoke DMT.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, it is kind of hard to get a full dose of DMT in through the smoked route. You start to cough, and you have to take 2, 3, 4 big hits. And you start to come on after the first or second hit. So it could be that the people that you're communicating with just aren't getting enough.
I see. Well, there's an email question from T from Arizona. He says, hi, Dr. Strassman. I've been using smoke DMT for about 2 years, but the experiences are not nearly as profound as people describe. I have rarely seen entities or communicated with any beings. I'm using between 50 and 100 milligram doses, and it seems like I either don't break through or I way overshoot it to the point that I can't remember the experience. Do you have any suggestions as to what I can do to gain more out of the experience, or can it be my body simply just stubborn to the effects?
Well, first of all, I don't encourage anybody to break the law. I don't encourage anybody to take drugs. So those are my two, caveats whenever I answer questions like this. So that being said, if he's undershooting or overshooting, he ought to probably, take a medium dose. I'm not sure if he's taking any other drugs at the time, if he's smoking pot, drinking alcohol, if he's done, quite a bit of ecstasy, has, taken LSD like an hour before. If he's straight, if he's a normal guy, and he's overshooting or undershooting, then I would probably just experiment, with the dose a bit more.
Well, T from Arizona, there's your answer right there. Let's get back to some of these other questions. What would you say the main objective and the goals were from the DMT study? There
were a kind of overt goals and covert goals. The overt goal, was to get, psychedelic research off the ground in the U.S. again. It had been over 20 years since anybody had started a new study. And I was really interested in these drugs, and it was a huge growth industry.